Here we go. What's up, friends? It's your boy, it's your man, Dallas Michael Sear, going live from Sedona with the first official episode, transmission 83, which has been a long time coming. Haven't done a official transmission in a while. If you don't know, I used to do Facebook Lives very consistently. And this would be officially episode number 83, and I'm coming live from Sedona. In the reflection of the window behind me, you can get a little sense of what I'm actually looking at that way, which is beautiful. So if you read in the description there, what's up, Dan? What's up, brother? If you're chiming in, feel free to say hello and connect. I'm going to be responding to any comments or questions afterwards, and I do want to open this up by saying that if you're someone who is dealing with any deep trauma, or is dealing with any a lot of shadow, or has been traumatized and is going through the kind of like the really hard, thick healing process that you may be in that particular phase of the healing process, this may not be the best time for you to listen to this video, because there are some things that I may say that you might not be ready to receive yet, that could be harming or triggering. But I honor you to trust yourself. If it feels good to listen, then please do. This could very much help someone going through that process. So just tune into yourself first before you decide. I noticed, I've been coaching for 9 years, and one of the things that I assist people in is in activating their purpose and in fact activating their voice. So I work with teachers and coaches and messengers to help them get their messages out into the world, and I've been speaking and performing for a large portion of my life, almost all my life in some way. Yet I notice for the first time in a really long time, I feel nervous. I feel very nervous to be sharing this right now. And it's this like kind of anxious energy. And I know, of course, that is a blend of two things. One, it's an indication that this is something that's very important. And so I feel a big responsibility to do this conversation justice and to be delicate and honoring. And so I'm going to be doing my best to come from a place of love and to speak my truth and be very thorough and delicate with what I'm going to share, because I notice just how important this is. So there's this like energy of a lot of anxiousness, but it's really excitement, because I'm excited to share this. I believe right now is one of the most important times for this conversation, more than ever, and I'll explain why. In addition to that, I feel a very deep responsibility to say this as best as I can, to do these concepts service. And again, I would love if you do share comments or questions. I'm getting a little eaten from mosquitoes. If you do share comments and questions, just know that I will respond afterwards, but I'm gonna want to stay focused in this moment, okay? So this conversation, as you might have seen from the description, it's all about the difference between honoring the shadow, honoring the darkness, or is it more about the winning, the overcoming of good and evil, the battle of good and evil? What is the difference between the two? And also, how is this happening as a fractal inside of each one of us individually, as well as on the grand scheme and the whole of what we are seeing out in the world? And my own personal journey through all of this as well. Now, all of this was brought up, or has come to the surface for me to share this now, from a post that I did on my page. You can check it out. It was a couple of days ago, where I shared a post about how many times I see very conscious people who believe that they are waking up, people with very positive conscious language. I see very conscious and positive people who are, it's all about the light and their high vibration, and we're honoring the light. So hello everybody joining. I'll be answering comments and questions afterwards. But it's all about honoring the light and higher vibration and bad negative vibes and this kind of like this judging. So we're very conscious, yet at the same time, we're seeing these things that maybe we don't agree with or are no longer true for us, and we're judging. And it was a post about how when we believe we're seeing something that is an error, we're seeing it as an error, something that we think should be right, that is right or wrong or should be different, then we're placing our judgment upon that thing. And in doing so, we ourselves are in error. We are making the error by placing that judgment on the thing and determining from our own perspective, from our own belief, that it is right or wrong. Not whether or not it is for us or not for us, our truth or not our truth, but that it's good, bad, it should be, it shouldn't be, it's right, it's wrong. And when we place that judgment on the thing, we ourselves are in error, because none of us are here to condemn or judge. That is not our job. In fact, I can make the discussion or the point or the argument, it's not God's job either. God is too busy loving you, the universe, energy, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is too busy loving you to waste time judging you. And so in this share, this gentleman who responded to my post about judgment, about how conscious people are so consciously being unconscious, judging other people, it's just an observation and a thought I had. I don't judge those people. They're welcome to do that. I love them the same way as I would love someone else who I perceive isn't doing that. No right or wrong. Yet when I shared that, this individual had a comment paraphrasing around the idea that a lot of people who appear conscious are so self-absorbed. It's kind of the essence of what he was sharing, that they never think outside of themselves. And I get that. I get that perspective, and I shared and replied to what he said from just a different point of view, understanding where he was coming from, and just sharing another thought. And it was actually a very cordial conversation. You can go back and look at it. Eventually, though, it got to a point where I was explaining that I honor all things, light and dark. In the post that I'm talking about, there was a hashtag, all is sacred. I will say that again. All is sacred. And I was expressing how the darkness is just as sacred as the light. And when we finally got to that point in the thread and I shared that, he said, "I'm sorry, my friend, you're not conscious at all." It's almost word for word what he said. And it kind of triggered me at first, and I understood what he meant by that. I still get the perspective because I believe I was once there at one point. And it's not a better or worse or right or wrong or higher or lower, all this language we get trapped in. It's just different. From where I am now, I can see his perspective, and I have a different one because of my journey. My journey says that we all came out of the womb. The womb. For men, this is the hara. We came out of the darkness. The light came out of the darkness. And then there was light. Well, what was there before? Darkness. Any time that we are not honoring the darkness or the shadow, then we are not honoring some aspect of ourselves. And you cannot experience being whole and complete. Whole and complete without honoring all of it. Any time that you're not honoring the shadow and darkness in something or in someone, it is because it is a reflection that you are not honoring the darkness within you. So you are in this idea that there is separation, that something could be taken from me, that there is a right or wrong and I have to fight to have what I get. That I could be hurt or left behind, that I could be murdered and killed, that someone or something has to save me. And that keeps you bought into, it strengthens the illusion of this experience. Now in this 3D reality, on this plane that we get to operate in, there has to be a negative with a positive. Whatever device you're watching this on, it couldn't work. It couldn't work with just a positive side of that battery. We wouldn't be able to have this conversation. The creation of this video, of this experience, couldn't exist without the negative and the positive. They need each other. Do you understand? That is how I honor the darkness. Because until the shadow is no longer required, until the darkness is no longer required, it will exist. And we don't have to get rid of it. That's the illusion. That's the lie. That I've got to fight it in battle and get rid of it. No, if you transmute it with love, if you come from unconditional love, listen to that. We can't even wrap our head around what that means. Unconditional. Without condition. No exceptions. Unconditional love. Then that will automatically transmute that darkness, that shadow. It'll be done with us. We don't have to do anything. You don't have to be done with it. You don't have to fight it and battle it. Understand it. Accept it. Love it unconditionally, and it will be transmuted. The same that you would do that inside of yourself. That's the ultimate self-love, because I see the divinity in all things. Right? The darkness is still required. The shadow is still, when it's done, it'll be done. We're getting there. I feel that there is a growing understanding and belief and remembering that we are entering a new golden age. We are becoming enlightened. We can move and remember and awaken to our full divinity, our full light. Until then, the shadow and the darkness is still required. It is still an aspect until it is not. Period. And when it's done, it will be done. And the more that we can love it unconditionally, whatever it is, the thing that we don't agree with, the person that we believe is doing harm, the thing that we think is wrong, the thing that we're judging, if we instead shine unconditional light upon it, it will transmute. We will see and understand the divinity in it, and it will be gone. It'll have no more power. When we fight, when we battle the darkness inside of us or outside, it only helps to strengthen that darkness. We are continuing to fight. We're continuing the resistance. And what happens is then we are in a place of regret, a place of guilt for the darkness inside of us, all the things we shouldn't have done, the things we'll be judged for, all the wrong, all the bad doing. We start judging ourselves. We're in fear and lack and scarcity, in regret and shame and guilt. And it's eating us alive. It's killing us and burdening us and keeping us from being the light. But that's a process. Now, where people get confused, the challenge that people have is, well, then how can you honor a rapist? How can you honor someone who harms kids, who murders, who disrespects the planet? How can you honor that? That's the misunderstanding. I'm not honoring the act. I'm not honoring the so-called negative, dark shadow, or evil. I'm not honoring the action of someone who is confused or forgotten or lost. I'm honoring the divinity in the person. That's the only separation I care about. Separating the difference between the person who is doing an action, who is making a mistake, who is wrong and needs love, support, guidance so they can remember their own divinity. I honor that. I honor that person. I honor the fact that darkness just gets to exist at this time until it doesn't. That's the honoring. I don't honor the act of the harm. And people say, well, then if you see someone doing something evil and wrong, what would you do? Wouldn't you want to stop it and do something about it? Yes. Here's the most important thing that you can hear right now. I do two things first. The first thing is I tune in. Before I tune out. Before I tune out and I point fingers, you shouldn't be harming animals, you should be a vegan, you shouldn't be hurting children, you shouldn't be hurting the planet, you, Trump this, you. Before I turn out, I tune in. And I check in with two things. Why is this triggering me? Because everything is a mirror, so how is that thing active in me? How is that thing, in some way, shape, or form, even if I'm not literally murdering people, how is that energy, that belief system, that idea, how is that somehow alive in me? Because if I spot it, I got it. If I see it and it triggers me, some aspect, big or small, in some way of that thing is in me. So I first take responsibility and ownership. I tune in before I tune out. That's step number one. Step number 2 is I ask myself, is this mine to do? So many of us are so busy taking on other people's lives, living other people's lives and not living our own. We're so busy trying to save the world that we're not saving ourselves. It is the epitome of be the change you want to see in the world. You don't have to go save billions and millions of people. That is you coming from, most of the time, the majority of the time, it's coming from you coming from lack and scarcity. You've got to go save the world because you believe you're not enough. You believe you're not enough, so you got to save the world. Save yourself first. Let's start there. With my clients, I've been coaching for over 9 years, and with my clients, I usually see people come to me. People come to me in 3 major areas. And the foundation of moving through the shadow, of embracing the darkness, of embracing the challenge, of learning to love all aspects of themselves so they can return to wholeness. You can't return to wholeness until you love all aspects of yourself, including the shadow and darkness. How can you come out of the womb of darkness, the womb of all creation? How can you come out of that? How can you come out of the womb of all creation? The darkness, the void from which everything comes from, and then turn back at it and not honor it and shame it for being dark. What? Doesn't even make any sense. But again, it's because we think that if we honor the shadow or the darkness, that means that we're honoring the act of negativity. We're honoring evil. There is a separation. I can honor the divinity and perfection and wholeness inside a person. Whether you're Catholic or Christian, whether Jesus was just an ascended master for, not just, but whether Jesus was an ascended master or he is your savior or never existed. Whether the Bible is literal or it's parable. Whether you're Christian, Catholic, or none of the above. The idea, the story, the concept of Jesus being on the cross, and to one side he has a thief, and onto the other side he has a murderer. And before they all die, before they die, they ask for forgiveness. And he grants them forgiveness. He actually says, you're forgiven. You made an error. There was nothing to be forgiven for. The kingdom of heaven is within. In essence, he was saying, I don't even need to save you. You're saved. The kingdom of heaven is within. You've been forgiven. Jesus came to illustrate that we are already free from sin. To love each other unconditionally, without condition. It's so hard for us to wrap our heads around that when we see someone doing something harmful and we believe, out of our fear, out of our belief in separation, out of our belief in lack, out of our fear of death, we believe that we get to judge and condemn an act or a person, and somehow that makes us more right. So in my coaching, throughout the years, people have come to me because they are coaches, healers, teachers, messengers. And they want to activate that mission and message and share it with the world. 2, they are moving out of a relationship. They're moving out of a relationship and regaining their identity, remembering who they are. Or 3, they're leaving a job and wanting to start a business. And in all 3 of those aspects, it's about remembering who you are and returning back to the full embodiment of the divinity that you are, the full power that you are. It's becoming empowered. And so foundationally, regardless of what I'm assisting a client with, at some point in the journey, almost every time over 9 years of coaching, we get to the point of discussing their shadow, of honoring the darkness. So there's so many more areas I can go with this. I want to acknowledge everyone who's here listening and watching. This is a big one to start from the beginning, and I promised that I would answer any questions at the end or respond to any comments at the end. This is one of the first transmissions I've done in a while, and at the beginning I was tuning in and I was noticing how I was feeling nervous. And the reason why I was nervous is because I feel such a responsibility. Like, this is such an important topic. For us to regain our sovereignty, for us to take full responsibility for our lives, 2 things that are absolutely primary in our awakening and current evolution, we get to honor the shadow and the darkness. You can still tune in and decide what is yours to do. right? So the two things that I said that I do when I look at something that I think gets to be fixed, corrected, healed, I do two things. I check in first and say, what aspect of that is in me? What aspect of that, big, small, doesn't matter. What aspect of that in some way, shape, or form is still in me? And number two, what's mine to do? Because not everything is ours to do. So many of us are driving other people's buses, living other people's lives. It may not be yours to do. So you should always tune in before you tune out and decide, before you take on things and try to save the world. Right? Rescuing animals, is it yours to do? Saving children, is it yours to do? The thing, I decide in the moment, this thing that I'm witnessing and watching, is that mine to do? And if it is, then I just decide, what action do I wish to take? How do I wish to serve this moment, this experience, this person? What is mine to do in this situation? Is this mine to do? And then what is mine to do in this circumstance? Once I'm clear on that, then I take action. Yet I can do that and still not judge. I can still do that and see the divinity in the person. I can honor the divinity in the person who has created the act, the harmful act of rape, of murder, of harming the planet. I can see that. I can understand it. I can give forgiveness. Think about the pain that that person's in. So many people, they look at those who are lashing out, who are aggressive, who are angry, and who are lashing out. And they say, look at that bad, negative person, that evil person. And then they look at the person who's cowering, scared in the corner. Please, so scared. And we don't realize both people are different sides of the same coin. Both are in fear. Both are afraid. Both are disconnected from source. Both believe that they could be murdered, harmed. And one person is in the reactive nature of that shadow, lashing out, being aggressive, attacking before they get attacked because they're scared. And the other person is in the corner, paralyzed with fear. Please don't hurt me, because they're just as disempowered and just as scared. Same shadow, just different vibrations of the same shadow. Different aspects, different sides of the same coin. Both in fear, both in separation, both in disconnection. Both not honoring the darkness in themselves, both not feeling empowered, and therefore reacting to the outside world. And the more that we perpetuate this lie and this illusion, then the longer this story will go on. The longer the thing you think you need to lash out about is going to exist. The more energy you feed it, the longer it's going to take for you to heal internally for the things you think were done to you. Beyond all acts, your spirit is untouched. Beyond anything you've ever done, beyond anything you ever think what you ever thought was done to you, you are clean and pure. You have been untouched. You are divine, whole, and sovereign. Beyond anything you ever thought was done to you, or you feel is done to you. And that divinity in you recognizes the divinity in the person who attacked you, because before ever coming into this plane of existence, you two had an agreement, a contract. Help me to learn this lesson. Beyond healing, beyond all healing is the remembering that no harm was ever done. Beyond all healing is the remembering that no harm was ever done. So how can I honor the shadow? Why don't I battle? Why don't I believe in the battle of good and evil? Because it's a lie. Everything has come from divinity. Everything. The universe doesn't waste. God made no mistakes. Everything is love. Spirit is divine. Whatever example you want, even if you're atheist, and this conversation drives you nuts and make you sick, even if you're atheist, science alone, you can't have a negative without a positive. There's no up without down. Right? Everything continues to evolve out of the darkness. We were once a star, even if you're an evolutionist and an atheist, we were once a star in the big black void, and it exploded. And from stardust, we were born over millennia. Even then, you need the darkness. So honor it all. Honor it all within you. Honor all that you see. When you do this, there is a freedom that I cannot explain. I cannot explain. Every truly awakened, enlightened person shares the same story. That when they woke up, when they had that moment of samadhi or enlightenment, they were everything. There was no differentiation. War was gone. The mountains were gone. The birds were gone. They were all. And so we will continue to awaken to our enlightenment. But the only way through is in. Is honoring all aspects. Is letting go of the judgment that we have for others so that we can be free of the judgment that we have for ourselves. If this has served you in some way, if it's resonated with you, if it's empowered you in some way, then I ask that you share this, because I believe this is an absolutely fundamental conversation and one of the most important times for it. I don't watch a lot of politics or any really, yet I do know supposedly, there's a lot of things are going on, at least here in America in the government. Things are going on in Syria. A lot of things are going on. And we get to show up. So please share this message if it resonates. If you have comments or questions, I welcome them. I'm open to them. I love all of you. Assisting you always, here for you always. That you would ignite your purpose, that you would live your passion, that you would love your life.